This is Ubuntu 18.10 with the standard customized GNOME 3.30 desktop. Ubuntu 18.10 is supported for 9 months. It uses kernel version 4.18. GNOME 3.30 is a lot faster and lighter than previous recent versions of GNOME 3. But that is probably not obvious since I have Screen Recorder running. And this is just the way it came. The only thing I've done is I've installed Simple Screen Recorder and Synaptic Package Manager. The first thing I want to do is get rid of all these icons on the desktop. And if I right-click on the desktop, there isn't any way of doing that. What I found is that I need the GNOME tweak tool, so I'm going to press the super key or Windows key and type tweak. And it finds that there is GNOME tweaks in the Ubuntu Software Center, so I'm going to click on that. It opens Ubuntu software, and I'm going to install GNOME tweaks. Enter my password, click on Authenticate. And that's installed. I'm not going to launch it from here. And I'm going to right-click on this and add it to the favorites. Then I'm going to launch it. Let me go down here to desktop where it says show icons. Now I can turn off trash and mounted volumes if I want, or I could just turn off icons altogether. For instance, that way. However, if I want to leave some icons visible in the future, I'll just turn off the ones I don't want. And I'll leave it like that. Now doing a few more tweaks, let's just go through here. I'm going to turn off animations because I like to keep things simple. It says suspend when laptop lid is closed. I'm going to turn that off. Under appearance, it has the Yaru themes. I'm satisfied with those. I'm satisfied with the background. I'm going to disable the lock screen, but I'm satisfied with the background on the lock screen. Going down to desktop, I was just there, so I'm not going to go back to that. Extensions. Case status notifier item app indicator support. That's off. Since I don't know what it is, I'm going to leave it off. Ubuntu dock shows that it's off, but it's actually enabled. So I'm just going to leave that. Doesn't make sense. Fonts I'm not going to change. Keyboard and mouse. I don't have a mouse, I have a touchpad. Disable while typing is on. It never seems to work though. Mouse click emulation. I'm going to disable that. Doesn't seem to be any way of disabling it, it's just on. I guess you have a choice. Oh, you have to just keep scrolling off the screen. Very annoying. I'm going to click on disabled. That's the way to get rid of the mouse click emulation. Now, There are probably other things I can do with the touchpad in settings, but not here. Startup applications, I'm going to leave. Top bar. It shows the application menu is enabled, but that's not really the application menu. That's this little sub-menu under tweaks. I'll leave that. Battery percentage. I've disabled that. Might as well enable that. Shows 100%. Clock shows the weekday, but not the date, so I'm going to click on this and enable the date. If I want to show a 12-hour clock, I have to do that in settings, not here. It's one thing about this system, the actual settings are divided up too much for my taste. I don't need to show week numbers in the calendar. Window, title bars. It already shows the maximize and minimize buttons, and they're on the right the way I like them, so I'm going to leave that the way it is. That's one of the differences between the Ubuntu version of GNOME and the Fedora version of GNOME. Windows, attach modal dialog. When these are on, you can't move the dialog window, so I'm going to turn that off. Edge tiling. Yes, I want to leave that on. Center new windows, that's okay. Window action key, super key, that's fine. I'll leave the window focus the same. Now in workspaces, it shows dynamic workspaces. If I need a new workspace, it will create one automatically. I'm going to leave that. If I clicked on static workspaces, I could select, say, 4 workspaces, and it would always remain at 4. I only have one display, so I'll leave the workspaces on the primary display open. Now, those are the only tweaks immediately available in Ubuntu. There may be more available online, but you have to be careful. Some of those don't work in Ubuntu. So I'm going to turn this off. Now I'm going to go to settings, and the easiest way to do that is to go over here to this settings menu. All of these symbols lead to the same place, no matter where you click, and that's the settings menu. And now they have a little red line under here that gives you an idea that they're all the same thing. And I'm going to go down here to this little wrenches symbol on the lower left and open settings. And it goes back to where I was last, which is at sound, because I set my microphone volume, that sort of thing. So I'm going to go back here to beginning. And Wi-Fi. Airplane mode is off. It's connected to my Wi-Fi network, so I'm not going to change anything there. The airplane mode essentially disables Wi-Fi. I don't want to do that. I don't have any Bluetooth, so I'm going to turn that off. Otherwise, it's constantly looking for devices. Under background, you can have your choice if you wish. Well, there's a scroll bar that sort of appears when you get to it. None of these leave me terribly excited, so I'm going to leave it where it is. Cancel. Now here's the dock on the left here. I'm going to make that smaller, shrink the icon size. Not quite that small, maybe 32. And it's on the left, and as before, you can move it all over the place, the bottom, the right, etc. I'm not going to do that. notifications, and you can disable notification pop-ups altogether up here, or you can disable lock screen notifications altogether. But I'm going to leave notifications on, and you can choose which applications provide notifications. I'm just going to leave all of these on for now. Under search, when you search, this tells you what you're searching from. I'm just going to leave all these the same. I don't see any point in searching from the terminal, but I'll leave it the same. Region and language, English United States, I'm going to leave. Input sources, English United States. Universal access has high contrast, large text, etc. I'm not going to use any of that now. I did at one time. Online accounts, I really don't connect to any of these things directly, and I'm going to leave it the way it is. Privacy, screen lock on. I'm going to turn that off. And it doesn't turn off automatically. Instead, a dialog box comes up and you can turn it off. So the automatic screen lock is off. Location services is off. I'm going to leave it off. I could turn that on, but I'll leave it off. Usage and history is on. I'm going to turn that off. First of all, I'm going to clear my recent history. And then I'm going to turn off usage and history. Purge trash and temporary files. I'm not going to do that now. Problem reporting. It says never. I think I'll leave it that way for now. Connectivity checking is on. I'll leave that on. Under sharing, this is my computer's name. I'm not using any screen sharing now. I was just at sound, so I'm not really going to go into that in detail. The output are the speakers on my microphone because I have my headphones plugged into my microphone. The input is my microphone, and you can see it. Sound effects, I'm not going to change that. Application, simple screen recorder is using sound right now. I'm not going to change any of that. Power, I am going to change. I'll leave screen brightness at its brightest setting there. I'll turn off dimming the screen when inactive. And under blank screen, there's a drop-down menu. I'm going to go down to never. Under Wi-Fi, I found out in the past that if I turn this off, it simply disconnects my Wi-Fi as soon as I turn it off, and it reconnects it when I turn this back on. So I'm just going to leave that on. Mobile broadband I don't have connected to this computer. Bluetooth I turned off. Suspend and power button. It says automatic suspend when on battery power. When I click on that, I get this dialog box. So I'm going to turn this off. I don't like things to automatically suspend. I'd rather be in charge. Turn that off. It's off now. When the power button is pressed, I have three choices: suspend, power off, and nothing. Some other desktops have an option for ask what to do, but not here. So I'm going to leave it under power off. Under network, the Ethernet cable is unplugged, so there's nothing to do. I haven't set up a VPN, virtual private network, and I don't have a network proxy, so there's nothing to do there. Now, under details, displays, I'm going to leave that at landscape and the size, the resolution it is, 1366 by 768. Night light is off. That's a thing that turns orange at night. I don't like that. Keyboard. These are keyboard shortcuts. I really don't use a lot of keyboard shortcuts, so I'm going to leave that as it is. Mouse and touchpad. Now here's the second place where I can change the mouse and the touchpad. So the touchpad is enabled. Natural scrolling is on. I'm going to turn it off. Natural scrolling moves the content, not the view. I'm used to moving the view. Touchpad speed, I'm going to leave it. Tap to click, I'm going to turn off. Two-finger scrolling is on. I'm going to turn it off. And edge scrolling is off. I'm going to turn it on. So that's that. Now, printers. I haven't tried connecting any of my printers yet. I've always been able to use both of my printers with Ubuntu. Removable media, ask what to do, etc. I'm just going to leave that at ask what to do. Thunderbolt, I don't have any Thunderbolt devices. Color, I'm not going to change the color profile. So that's the end of devices. Now I've got to scroll down here to details. And this is Ubuntu 18.10. I have 3.7 gigabytes of memory. This is my processor, etc. It's GNOME 3.30.1, 64 bits. I could check for updates from here, but I'm not going to do that. Now, here's another time setting. I have automatic date and time enabled, automatic time zone. I do not have enabled, but I'm going to leave that the way it is. Time zone is Central Daylight Time, Chicago, United States. That would do for any place in the Central Time Zone. Time format is 24 hours. So here's what I want to change. I'm going to change that to 12 hours, and notice at the center of the top bar, as I change it to AM, PM, it changes from 15:05 to 3:05 PM. Users, that's me, I'm going to leave that. Default applications, Firefox, web browser, Thunderbird, Mail, Calendar, Rhythmbox. I don't actually use Rhythmbox, but I'll leave these the way they are for now, and I'll change that later. I should say I have nothing against Rhythmbox, but I just organize my music differently, and I don't use a music organizer per se. So those are the settings. Let's just take a look at what's installed. One thing you'll notice about this array here, and it's been a problem constantly, is that there's not enough space for the text to actually finish describing what's there, and there are no tooltips. So there's really no way of telling what the full name of this thing is. This is I'll Riot something. This is Amazon. That's the Amazon store. I really don't like the fact that that's included in Ubuntu apps, but I'm just going to leave it for now. Calculator, calendar, cheese, document something, and I'll leave you to guess just exactly what it is, because there's no room for the full name. Files, by the way, files is not version 3.30. If you go up here to About, it's still version 3.26, and that is because starting with version 3.28 of Files, GNOME Files, which used to be called Nautilus, stopped supporting files on the desktop, and many people objected to that. So Ubuntu keeps files at version 3.26. When I get around to Fedora 29, I think you'll see version 3.30. So where were we? Files, Firefox, input method, language something. And here we have LibreOffice something, LibreOffice something, LibreOffice something, LibreOffice something, and LibreOffice something. I can probably tell from these little symbols here that the first one is a spreadsheet, the second one is LibreOffice Draw, the third one is LibreOffice Impress, the presentation manager, and the fourth one is LibreOffice Writer. They don't have the full LibreOffice suite, but of course you could install that, and I would just get rid of these first and then install the full suite. And there's another game, Mahjong, another one, Mines. Here are the power statistics. Remina. I keep forgetting what Remina is because I don't use it. And of course there are no tooltips. It's a remote desktop client. All right. Rhythmbox, again, a musical organizer and player. Settings is another way to get to settings. Shotwell, image organizer, simple scan utility, simple screen recorder I added. This is software and something. This is software updater. Startup applications, startup disk. You can make a startup disk. Sudoku, it's a game. Synaptic Package Manager I installed. System Monitor. I've already mentioned in a previous video that this system is quite a bit lighter than GNOME used to be. Of course, now I have Simple Screen Recorder running, so I expect it to be using a bit of memory and a bit of CPU capacity. So let me go to resources here, see what it looks like. Yeah, I'm using about 70% of my CPU capacity and about 44% of my memory, 1.7 gigabytes. But again, that's because I have Simple Screen Recorder going. So I'm not too worried about that. Let me go back. Text editor, this is gedit by another name, text editor. Thunderbird, to do. Transmission, which is the BitTorrent client. Tweaks I installed. It was previously available in the software. And this is Ubuntu software, and here we have the utilities grouped together, and in the group is an archive manager, backups, characters, disk usage, GNOME disk, which I find very useful. That's what I use for writing my ISO files to USB drives to install all these systems. Fonts, help, image viewer, logs, passwords, screenshot, and terminal. So those are the utilities, and then there's videos. I've been using Ubuntu 18.04, actually Ubuntu Monte, and I've noticed three things that didn't work very well in Ubuntu 18.04, and I've mentioned them before. One is that it was rather difficult to install my Epson scanner in Ubuntu 18.04, and I published a video on how to do that. I find that it's still difficult to do in Ubuntu 18.10. But I'm going to post a link to my video on how to install it. Another one, PyRenamer, was no longer in the Ubuntu repositories, and I showed how to get that in another video. Of course, it's still no longer available in the Ubuntu repositories, so I'll post a link to that video. And the third thing actually works now. GNOME boxes just didn't work in Ubuntu 18.04. There were dozens of upgrades to QEMU, the backend for GNOME boxes, and it still never worked in Ubuntu 18.04. Unless I was doing something wrong, I was never able to get it to work. However, it works now, so I'm going to look for that. And I'm going to go to Synaptic, hit the super key, and type SYN. Synaptic Package Manager, enter my password, and authenticate. I'm going to make this full screen, and here's a quick introduction. I don't want to see that. So I'm going to search, and here they moved the little magnifying glass all the way over to the far right. Just why they did that I'll never know, but there are so many mysteries in the world. Search for GNOME boxes and click on search. And there it is, version 3.30. Mark for installation. Mark additional changes. Yes, mark. And click on apply. And click on apply again. Now that the changes are applied, I will click on close, and eventually this will repopulate. There it goes. So now I'm going to hit the super key and start typing. I'm going to just type boxes, and there it is, BOX. I'm going to click on New, and then Continue, and go down here to Select a File. I'm going to go to Downloads, and I just happen to conveniently have Ubuntu 18.10 there. So I'm going to click on Open. I'm going to leave it the way it is without customizing, and then click on Create. So Ubuntu 18.10 is starting up. I'm going to press Enter again. This is probably to make it full screen, no tooltips. There's Ubuntu. So Ubuntu live session opens up. I'm not worried about the Power Manager right now. And there's the Ubuntu menu. So I'm going to shut this down. So GNOME boxes works. This is Firefox Quantum version 63.0. This is LibreOffice Writer version 6.1.2.1. Just to go into the overview a little more, if I hit the super key or click on Activities, it shows my minimized application Simple Screen Recorder. And of course, if I had anything else minimized, it would show that also. When I go over here, it shows two workspaces. Notice it does not show minimized applications in the workspaces, which makes it rather difficult to know if there's anything in that workspace. However, if I go to the next workspace and I open another application, such as the terminal, now when I go to Activities, I have 3 workspaces. There's always an extra one, and that's if you have dynamic workspaces enabled. Of course, you can move things from one workspace to the other, like this. Now when I click on that workspace, it shows there are 2 things in the workspace, the terminal and Simple Screen Recorder, and I can switch between them. I can turn either one of them off from the overview here without actually opening it. So I'm going to turn off the terminal. Now when I go back, I can see that Simple Screen Recorder is minimized. Also, there's a little dot by Simple Screen Recorder down here, which shows that there's actually an instance that is running. So if I click on that, it is unminimized, and if I click on it again, nothing happens. It remains unminimized. To minimize it, I have to hit the minimize button. So that's Ubuntu 18.10 with the default GNOME 3.30 desktop as customized for Ubuntu. This is XRAM Tech. Thanks for watching.